This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Bruchim Abam, welcome everyone. We're continuing in Mishna Berura Daf HaShavua. We're learning Siman Lamed Beis. We're in the middle of Seif Chaf Hey. Let us read a little bit of the Mechaber. The Mechaber said that any letter from the beginning, any letter which was written not properly, without its tzura, for example, if the whole foot of the Aleph is touching the roof of the Aleph, or the face of the Aleph is touching the roof of the Aleph, or the regel of the Hey or the regel of Kuf are touching, or if there's one letter divided into two, like a Tzadi that was written as a Yud and a Nun, or a Shin that was written as an Ayin or a Yud, and a Yud, or a Ches that was written as two Zayins, and then you wrote after it, and you fixed it, it's Shaloi Kisidron and it's Pasal. Let us see Mishna Berura, Sifkatan, Kuf Yud Tes. Ayin Yud. You wrote a Shin as an Ayin and a Yud. Vuhadin Mem Pesucha. Let's say an open Mem, Shakasu Chaf Vav. Beli Meshichas Hatag Shabeneim. For example, you wrote a regular Mem, you wrote it as a Chaf and a Vav without connecting the two. So here, it's not on the diagram, but we could look at a Mem. Look at a Mem. I never realized this. A Mem is a Chaf and a Vav. They're just connected on top. I never realized that. Right? You see that? It's basically a Chaf and a Vav, a little tiny bit on an angle. But let's say you didn't connect it. Okay. Or a Ches, you made as two Zayins. Says the Mishna Berura, Afilim asa chutra al gabehen. You made a Ches as two Zayins, even if you made a hump on top of them. Rak she'enoigim zelazam lamala. They're just not touching each other. In other words, let's see if we could find. Let us see here. And you see the Ches? Ches you made as two Zayins. You even made a hump on top. You just didn't connect it on top. Okay. Still, it's going to be puzzle. The nikr lahedya pridasim, if its separation is clearly recognizable, hareza hefsida ikr tzurasa shenera kishnei zayin. You ruined the ikr tzura, and it's going to be puzzle. So this was in yesterday's. No, here we have 1 second. It's in 4. Oh, here's another example. Here, perfect. The Mem is a Chaf and a Vav. The Tzadi is a Nun and a Yud. Or let's say the Shin, for example. See, it doesn't come out so good when I do it on the scan, but this Shin is an Ayin and a Yud. You see that? It's an Ayin and a Yud. So, in all of these cases, it does not have the Tzura of the Ois. So, whatever you write afterwards is going to be Shaloi Kisidran. Okay, let's continue on in the Mechaber. Yeah, these were very helpful pictures. Aval, however, lehafrid ha'oisiyos hadvukos achar shekasav lefneim shaper dami. To separate letters that are connective after you wrote after them, it's okay. Why? The kivan sheha'ois tzurasa aleha. Since the letter has its tzura, when you separate it from its friend, it's not like writing. Okay, so let's, here's an example. An example would be, here, in the word, uchsav tam, where the tuf and the mem are touching. This looks like a tuf. This looks like a mem. All you need to do is to Right? So in other words, you wrote Uchsavtem al. So it's okay. You could go back and scratch between the Tuf and the Mem, because the Tuf fully has the Tzura of the ice, the Mem fully has the Tzura of the ice, and it's okay. So separating it, like over here, it's not considered Kisiva. Fine.
Do they need to be separated?
They absolutely do, yeah. If they're not separated, it's possible. You can't have two letters. Then it's not Muka.
Why is it not Chak Tuchos? Just creating the letter, but
good question.
You're making.
Good question. Why is it? Mendy's asking why is it not Chak Tuchos? The answer is the tzura of the ice is there. The scraping is not making the tzura of the ice. Chak Tuchos is the only problem when the scraping makes it have the tzura of the ice. But if the scraping merely gets around a halachic defect, that's not Chak Tuchos. Chak Tuchos is, let's say, let's say this aleph would be very, very thick, and then you would scratch out to make it thin, so the scratching is giving it the tzura of the ice, as opposed to where the scratching is only fulfilling halachic requirement. Fine. Let's go a little bit further. V'hu adin in the mechaber shem loy haya miktsas yudin she'al ha'alfin v'ashin v'aynin v'raglei ha'tavin noigin b'guf ha'is. Let's say if a little bit of the yud that's on the aleph, or on the shin, or on the ayin, or the foot of the tuf, it's not touching the guf ha'is. V'tinak doy chacham v'loy tipish, and your average kid who's not too smart and not too foolish, he would be able to. One second, where am I going? Hayamakiram, the Mechaber says he would recognize it. Even though you wrote after it, you could fix it. The kivan the tzuras ha'ois ha'isani keres, since the tzura of the ois was recognizable. Leka mishum savan shaloi kisidran. It's not a problem if it's not going to be a problem of writing it not in order. Okay, says the Mishna Berura. Kuf Chaf Aleph, Sivkatan Kuf Chaf Aleph. Vuadin im haya hefs. Now, let me just show you a few examples. So, in this Aleph over here, again, in the scan, you don't see clearly the separation. This fully looks like an Aleph. It just happens to be, it's not touching. So, if you wrote after it, you could go back and fix it. Or, if the Yud of the middle branch of the Shin was not touching, or the Yud of the upper part of the Ayin was not touching, or if the leg of the Tuf was not touching. In all these cases, you're allowed to fix it. Says the Mishna Berura, Yudin Shala Alfin V'adinim Haya Hefsik Be'eza Ois Be'emsai. Likewise, if there's a hefsik in some letter in the middle. What's the example they give? Yeah, the Hayivusi, this vase. If there's a hefsik, I guess you don't see clearly in the scan. They fill in the the hefsik, but there was a scratch there. Vitinoik, Peirosh. The meaning is like this: Lachein afilu and pridas and nikar lahedya. Even if the separation is recognizable explicitly, the hainu. I don't know what that stands for. Even if it's recognizable, what does Taf Vav Mem Yud stand for? Oh, thank you. Meaning, as soon as you see it, you immediately recognize that it's a good letter. So in other words, you don't have to stress yourself. You don't have to turn your head this way and that way. Take off a miyad. When you see it, yachal sakna, you could fix it. Meaning, you see immediately there's a crack. It's not like you have to use a magnifying glass to see the crack. Meaning, even if you immediately recognize the psul, you can fix it. Why? Because the letter is not missing its ikar tzura midikara atina klois, the fact that the kid could read the letter. So the example they give is Oh, here he spells out. Okay. The example that he gives is, let's say this ayin. You don't need to be rocket science. It's absolutely separated. You don't need a magnifying glass. But the kid reads it as an ayin. So if it has the ikar tzura, you're allowed to fix it. Kain kasav agon Rabbi Kivega b'chidusha v'dolik pri megadim shechem rebezeh v'ayin b'bir halacha. Okay. The Mishna Berura continues. Aval im ein pridas and nikar lahedya. If its separation is not outright recognizable, ad shem mistakel ba, until you stare at it, ein tzarich laharis l'tinaik. You don't even have to show it to a tinaik. In other words, if you immediately see that it's cracked, then you're going to have to show it to a tinaik. Okay, do you read it as one letter? But if you're going to have to strain yourself to see the psul, then you don't even have to show it to a kid. Let's say it happened you did show it to a child. V'loi karaloi ois. And he could not read it. You would have to be machmer that it's missing the tzura ha'ois, and you would not be able to fix it because it would be a problem of shaloi kesidran ve'en yachal l'sakein, and you would not be able to fix it. Kamay shekasav haprima gadam. So Rabbi Kiva Eger is lenient in a situation where the crack is seen explicitly. You could have a child read it, but if it's not explicitly cracked, but you did call a child and he can't read it, then we're going to be machmer like the Prima Gadim that you will not be able to fix it. Okay, Rabbi Say, we'll hold it over here. Have a wonderful day. Bracha v'atzlacha. Kol tov.
I don't want you to think that I knew the Russian tables.
Yeah.
It was spelled out in my beer shoe.
Okay. You have the right Mishna Berura. I was using the picture one today. Shkayach. I'm sure you knew the Rashi Tevis anyway. Shkayach. Kol tov.
The last halacha.
Yeah.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.